Good morning, everyone. Uh, this is going to be a quick video about the trip that Aaron and I just took to Africa with Mount Enon Baptist Church in Clinton, Maryland. We left on November the 11th and we returned on November 21st. And the purpose of this video, we're just going to talk a little bit about the preparation for the trip. And this is from my aspect, the female aspect. And Aaron is going to talk about preparation, packing from the male aspect in a secondary video. So the first thing that I want to talk about in preparation is we heard about this trip while attending Mount Enon maybe about 9 months ago at church service. So what that enabled us to do is to plan for the payment of this trip, because all in all, it came out to be about an $11,000 trip for the two of us. And they had a payment plan. Their payment plan was initially with registration to secure your space. You had to pay $500 per person. And then on May 15th, you had to pay $1,500 per person. And then by September 15th, you had to pay the total balance of the trip. We didn't use the payment plan because we weren't 100% sure that we would have childcare. So what we ended up doing is we saved for the trip monthly, and then we began paying when we secured childcare. So I think we didn't begin paying until September. And in September, we made 3 consecutive payments in full, or not in full, but with check or with with check, not cash. And because there was a fee for a credit card, we were trying to avoid credit card. So we wrote checks to the bank accounts that we had saved the money up, and we were paid up. Actually, I think they gave us a little bit more than September 19th, but not by much, to pay for the trip. So the second thing we did in preparation for the trip is we had to get, once we paid, you had to get visas to get admitted to the countries. So the first visa we received was online, and it was a Kenyan visa. And you just pretty much go to their immigration website and you fill out your information. One thing I'll note is they don't ask you for your first names in Africa. They ask you for your other names. So when they ask you for your surname, they want your last name. But in paperwork, when they ask you for your other name, it's your first name. I made the mistake of thinking they meant my maiden name when they said other names. So my Kenyan visa said Pemberton Gilliard when they really wanted to know your first name. So we were able to pay for our Kenyan visa online, and that was about $55 per person. And we weren't able to get our Tanzanian visa until we were actually in Tanzania, and that was $100 right there on the spot. The next thing that we did to prepare for the trip is we had to get our medical aligned. So we went, I advise you get your Kenyan visa at least 30 days prior to your trip in case there's any issues. Your medical, that should be 14 to 30 days prior as well, because if you are going to take my doctor prescribed me malaria medication, and if you're going to take the malaria medication, you have to start putting it in your system before you actually enter the country. And there's also, of course, we went to a military facility, being that I'm retired and Aaron is active duty. We had to see a travel advisor, and so they go through your immunizations. They look up the area that you're going to, and they give you a whole advisory sheet about don't eat the vegetables, don't swim in certain bodies of water, don't avoid areas with high population of mosquitoes, that type of information. and they look through your immunizations to determine what shots you need to go to the countries that you say you're going. So we both needed to have a yellow fever proof of immunization, yellow fever, to enter both of the countries. And I had to get an update of my typhoid, and a flu shot was recommended. But since the military facility we used, medical facility we used, was out of the flu shot, I didn't get the flu shot. I received from my doctor malaria pills, which I didn't take. But that's me. You can follow me or you cannot follow me. But if you end up with malaria, don't come looking for me. And one of the reasons why I didn't, well, two reasons why I didn't take the malaria pills. One, I read up on the symptoms that people have sometimes when they take malaria pills. And the symptoms to me seemed worse than malaria. So I didn't take the malaria pills for that reason. And also I didn't take the malaria pills because our Signature Tours is the tour that the company that organized the tour for us. He said that he's been there several times. He's never taken malaria pills and he never caught malaria. So those are the two reasons why I didn't take the malaria pills. Other people who went with us told us they did take their malaria pills and they seemed fine. The doctor also gave us medication in case of diarrhea, but we didn't have any issues with diarrhea. But we have two different prescriptions that if we have mild diarrhea or severe diarrhea. So that's the information that we got from the doctor's office. Oh, so also to prepare, I wanted to go into hair for us ladies. So initially, before I had crochet braids, and it was with spiral hair. I want to call it, we'll just call it spirals, with spiral hair. And it was really frizzy, and I figured it would be hard to maintain, and I wanted to be very low maintenance for this trip. So I went to my beautician and I asked her if she knew how to do tree braids. And she didn't, but she watched a couple of YouTube videos and she did a very good job. I used to have tree braids all the time when I was stationed in Kuwait. They had a beauty parlor on base, and they had a couple of Ethiopian ladies that could whip some tree braids in your hair like within a half hour. And so usually to me, tree braids, they give an authentic look of, you know, you can't really tell they're braids, but they have the maintenance of braids. I think the type of hair that she used is different than the ones the ladies in Kuwait use, because that hair is usually very low maintenance. This hair got tangled a lot, and so I found myself, most of the time I would just put it back in one or put it in a braid or something, throw on my hat, throw a scarf on, and it was pretty low maintenance. But I did wish that it was even lower maintenance, where I didn't feel like I had to brush it or put mousse on it and detangle it. So maybe a different tree braids I recommend, but probably with a different brand of hair. And so I got these done maybe 2 or 3 days prior to going on the trip. And I also wouldn't have gotten it this long. This is pretty much the longest I've ever gotten tree braids. But it may be because the hair that the ladies used to use was kind of spirally. So that could be it. But the other thing, now I'm gonna go into what I actually packed to take this trip to Africa. And by all means, if you have any questions, anything I didn't answer in this preparation section that you have some questions about, leave a comment and we'll definitely respond to answer your questions.